They say you can't go home again, but I've never believed that. Riding along blue highways that lead to Mound City, Kansas, I remember the place where I grew up. It was small town USA, and it still is. It's been a while since I've been back. Yeah, some things are different, but some are just the same. It was a country place, some say not much to do, but it shaped my life. Mound City was nestled into timbered hillsides, gloriously colored every fall. What I learned in the land around it led to a love of wildlife and nature. And I've spent my life filming and sharing these things. My good friend Bruce Holt still lives there. As boys, we hauled hay, played football, and were among the first bow hunters in Lynn County back in 1970. And we kept up our hunting and fishing together for years since then. But we got sidelined in June 2011 when Bruce, a guy I couldn't keep up with, was stricken with Guillain-Barré syndrome and was paralyzed for most of a year. It was something to watch his hard work and great attitude as he built back his strength. He's still working on it, but this year, with some modifications, he's back in the woods hunting deer. So I came home to hunt like old times. We only had a day and a half, but the weather was perfect. Bruce drives a four-wheel drive mule to his hunting locations, trailering it to the woods and driving in from there. Most places, good hiding spots allow him to park it right next to ground blinds. He could shoot a crossbow, but instead he has a permit to use a special device that holds his own bow in a ready position. He shoots a normal hunting arrow tipped with a Muzzy broadhead. His arms are strong enough to draw the bow, but his fingertips still haven't reached normal strength. So he uses this locking device, drawing the bow and setting a trigger before hunting. Then he loads the arrow and uses a bow sight to aim and fire at a target. We got started the first morning before daylight, sitting in a place where trail cameras showed hundreds of deer in just a few days. It was perfect, with the wind blowing favorably and birds keeping us company. But after a long wait, we never saw a deer. Bruce hoped to shoot a doe, knowing it was unlikely that big bucks would be moving at this time of October. But outing one was quiet. We spent the balance of the midday visiting favorite old places we used to hunt, riding through the roughest terrain in his mule. Now that's the way to do it. We scouted food, scrapes, and enjoyed the foliage. Then it was time for round two. I brought a ghost blind, which is a mylar screen that mirrors and blends into any environment. Bruce could sit right in the open with this arrangement, getting closer for a shot. We set up on a small clearing in heavy timber, planted a clover, a favorite fall food for deer. 2 hours before sundown, a yearling buck came into the opening. But at once he went on alert. I'd backed the mule a short distance away, not worrying a lot about keeping it out of sight. Immobile vehicles aren't in themselves that alarming to deer. But this buck spooked and ran away. When I looked at the mule, it was evident why. The large windshield was glaring unnaturally, so I placed a camouflage tarp over the windshield and the vehicle basically disappeared. An hour later, a pair of 2-year-old bucks began feeding in the field as Bruce watched. Then an even larger 3-year-old joined them. They came into easy bow range, but he simply sat and enjoyed the show. They fed on the clover and occasionally stopped to spar and shove each other around. This isn't real fighting, it's just good-natured exercise that helps them learn. Bigger bucks fight for real in sometimes bloody battles over breeding rights. The bucks also displayed an interesting rut ritual called scraping. Here they usually chew overhanging twigs and rub them on scent glands near their eyes to leave a signature. Then they paw the ground to create a bare spot, urinating into it to leave more scent. Receptive does loiter near scrapes to wait for bucks making their rounds. So bow hunters like to wait near scrapes for close shots. In the final hour of daylight, the biggest buck came close to Bruce several times, but he hoped for something bigger and never shot. Once he raised his bow and sighted, satisfied that he could have been successful. That's a regular part of bow hunting, passing shots. In early November, much larger bucks will be moving during daylight, so there was plenty of time. We waited for the bucks to clear out at dark and then drove out in the light of a beautiful rising full moon. It was a fine day in the woods. Next morning the weather changed. We hunted another blind at daybreak, but left early when deer began winding us and snorting. They wouldn't come close under those circumstances. So our hunt and brief time together ended, adding to a lifetime of experiences and memories. We weren't young anymore, and we move a little slower now. But even so, I left Mound City and my old friend, content in the knowledge that you really can go home again. I'm Mike Blair in the Kansas Outdoors.